The screen goes black for half a second. Not because you shut anything down. Not because the laptop battery died. Just that tiny flicker when the page refreshes, when the light drops out for one breath, and suddenly the screen turns into a dark mirror. For that 1 second, you see yourself staring back, and your face looks stranger than you expected. It is 2:16 in the morning. The room has that stale, late-night smell of instant noodles, warm plastic, and something slightly burnt from earlier that you told yourself you would clean up, then never did. A charging cable runs across the floor like a trap you keep stepping over. One shoe is under the desk, your hoodie is on the chair, your shoulders are pulled up near your ears, and your jaw has been clenched for so long that when you finally try to relax it, it actually hurts. Then the screen lights up again, and the message is still there. It is not dramatic. It does not arrive with music. It does not shake the room. It is just a confirmation, sitting there in the corner of the page, small and clean, and almost too calm. Like it has always belonged there. Like it did not just quietly rearrange the next few years of your life without asking your permission. You do not react at first. Your hand stays above the keyboard, not typing, not clicking, just hovering there. Your body is waiting for something your mind has not caught up to yet. You scroll down. Forms, policies, equipment shipment, security training, dates, names, links, a schedule, a checklist, a new email address, a system already expecting you. Everything is already moving. You thought there would be a moment where it felt different, some clean line between who you were yesterday and who you are now, some invisible door you would step through and feel finally that life had changed. But there is no line. There is only this quiet realization that something has already started arranging itself around you, making space for you, assigning you, measuring you, preparing to absorb you into a structure you have never seen from the inside. You were trying to get in, but this does not feel like getting in. It feels like synchronization, like something has been running the whole time, long before you arrived, and all you did was reach the point where it finally recognized your name. And now that it has recognized you, it is not going to stop and ask what you want next. Level 1, the new grad, learning where you stand. Your first morning starts before you are ready for it. You wake up at 6:12 a.m., even though your alarm is set for 6:45, because your body does not trust sleep anymore. The room is still half dark. Your new shirt is hanging from the closet door, steamed the night before, still carrying that sharp chemical smell from the store. Your backpack is beside the chair with a clean notebook inside, 2 pens, a charger, and almost nothing that will actually help you. You get there early because being late on the first day feels impossible. Not unlikely, impossible. The lobby is all glass, stone, polished floors, and badge readers. The kind of place where even the silence feels expensive. People move through it with a rhythm you do not have yet. They do not look rushed. They do not look amazed. They do not look like they are entering somewhere special. They scan in, pass through, and disappear into elevators like they have belonged here for years. Your badge is handed to you inside a thin plastic sleeve. Your name is spelled correctly. Your photo is slightly worse than you hoped. You clip it to your shirt and, for one brief second, it feels like your life has changed shape in a physical way. Like the object on your chest proves something about you. Then you sit down at your assigned desk and the monitor is still wrapped in a thin plastic film. The keyboard is too clean. The chair is adjusted for someone taller than you. The desk has no history, no scratches, no coffee rings, no signs that anyone has ever been nervous there before. Your login does not work the first time. Then it does not work the second time. A support ticket is open before you have written a single line of code. Nobody is rude. That almost makes it harder. People smile quickly, say welcome, then turn back to screens filled with things you cannot read yet. Your manager gives you a document full of acronyms you pretend to understand. Your onboarding buddy tells you the first few weeks are always weird. And you nod like that gives you something solid to hold on to. In the team meeting, 12 people speak in compressed fragments. Project names, dependency risks, review blockers, migration plans, acronyms inside acronyms. Someone mentions a service name, and 3 people react like the name itself carries history. You catch maybe half of it, maybe less. You came here thinking the job was to be smart. By lunch, you understand the first hidden rule. Smart is only the entry fee. The real job is learning where power hides. Who actually approves the final version? Who can slow a project down without ever raising their voice? Who says interesting when they mean no? Who stays quiet because they already decided yesterday? Who writes one sentence in a shared document and changes the next 3 months of someone else's work? That is the first lesson nobody puts in onboarding. The org chart tells you who reports to whom. It does not tell you who everyone waits for. You spend your first week reading internal pages that feel like they were written for people who already know the answer. You bookmark everything. You understand pieces, not systems. You open one link and it sends you to another. That one sends you to a design doc from 2 years ago. That doc mentions a migration that apparently happened, except half the code still looks like it did not. You ask one question in a group chat, then regret the wording for 20 minutes. Someone replies politely. Someone else adds a link. The conversation moves on without you. And somehow that feels worse than being corrected. By the second week, you are given a small task. Not glamorous, not visible, not the kind of thing you imagined when you pictured yourself working here. It is a minor cleanup in a service that sits behind a product feature you have used before but never really thought about. You open the files and stare at them longer than you would ever admit. The code is not beautiful. It is layered, patched, commented, abandoned, revived, renamed, and held together by decisions made before you joined the company. And that is the second hidden truth. Real software does not look like the clean examples you learned from. Real software looks like time. It looks like compromises that survived because they were good enough during a week when something else was on fire. It looks like people leaving, people joining, deadlines moving, teams reorganizing. A comment from 4 years ago warning future engineers not to touch a line that everyone is now afraid to delete. You make the change carefully, too carefully. You test it more than necessary because you do not trust yourself yet. You reread your pull request description 6 times. You remove one sentence because it sounds nervous. Then you put it back because silence somehow feels worse. At 9:18 a.m., you submit it. And then, nothing happens. The whole day passes. People join meetings. Messages appear and disappear. Someone laughs near the coffee machine. A senior engineer walks past your desk 3 times without looking at you. You refresh the page more often than you should. No approval, no rejection, no comment. Just your work sitting there, waiting inside a queue you cannot see. By late afternoon, the confidence you had carefully built around yourself starts to thin out. Maybe the change is too small. Maybe the description is wrong. Maybe everyone is too busy. Maybe this is normal. Maybe you are not. At 7:43 p.m., when the office has emptied into a quieter version of itself, one comment appears. Not praise. Not criticism. Just 7 words asking you to clarify one decision. You stare at it for a long moment. Then something settles in your chest. Not relief exactly, more like recognition. This is how the place speaks, not through applause, not through welcome speeches, not through the polished language from recruiting. It speaks in delays, review comments, calendar invites, permissions granted, permissions withheld, names mentioned in rooms you are not in. You thought joining a tech company would make you feel important. Instead, it teaches you how small you can become inside a machine that does not need to dislike you to make you invisible. And once you understand that, the next level is not about proving you are brilliant. It is about becoming reliable enough that the machine starts using you on purpose. Level 2. The reliable engineer. Stability has a schedule. By the 3rd month, you stop looking lost. Not because you understand everything. You do not. But you have learned where not to panic. You know which alerts matter and which ones can wait. You know which meetings require you to speak and which ones only require your name to appear on the calendar. You know how your manager likes updates. 3 bullets, no drama, risks first, solutions second. You learn that sounding calm is part of the job, even when your chest is tight. Your apartment is better now. Not large, not impressive, but better. The sink does not leak. The windows close properly. There is enough room for a desk that is not also your dining table. On the first night there, you stand in the middle of the room with unopened boxes around your feet, and for a second, you feel something close to safety. For a while, that feeling is enough. Your paycheck lands every 2 weeks. Your savings account grows in a way it never did before. You buy better groceries without checking the price of every single item. You replace the shoes you wore through the soles. You stop calculating every small decision like it might ruin the month. From the outside, this looks like freedom. But inside the company, stability has a shape. It looks like sprint planning every other Monday. Review cycles, launch calendars, release freezes, quarterly goals, dependency trackers, incident rotations, recurring meetings that enter your life before you have emotionally agreed to them. Your weeks begin to repeat with such precision that you can almost feel the next meeting before the reminder appears. You are useful now. Not brilliant, not irreplaceable, useful. And useful people get scheduled. That is the hidden rule of this level. The company does not need to own all your time. It only needs to know exactly where your time is vulnerable. A launch can take your evening. A review can take your weekend. A broken service can take your sleep. You are no longer outside the system trying to prove you belong. You are inside it now. And the reward for becoming reliable is that people begin relying on you without asking whether there is anything left to give. At first, you are proud of this. When someone tags you in a thread because you know the answer, you feel that small private pleasure of being needed. When your manager trusts you with a production change, you sit a little straighter. When a newer hire asks how something works, you explain it carefully and hear your own voice becoming more certain than you actually feel. But confidence has a strange cost here. The more often you solve things, the more invisible the solving becomes. A quiet week does not mean the system needed less from you. It means you absorbed the friction before anyone else felt it. You answered the questions early. You caught the bug before release. You stayed 30 minutes late to fix the edge case that would have become someone else's problem tomorrow. Nobody celebrates the problems that never become visible. Then one evening, you're eating dinner across from someone who is trying to tell you about their day. The bowl is still warm in your hands. Steam touches your face. For the first time all week, your laptop is closed. The room is soft in a way your office never is. The conversation is slow, human, unmeasured. Then your phone vibrates once. You glance down. A small alert. Nothing dramatic. One service behaving strangely. One number moving in the wrong direction. One line in a dashboard that probably means nothing, unless it does not. You put the bowl down. You tell yourself it will take 5 minutes. You open the laptop. The screen lights your face before you have even finished apologizing. The person across from you stops talking. Not angrily, not even sadly. They just stop, like they have learned the same rule you have. This is not an interruption. This is the schedule. And that is when you understand the truth you were not ready to name. You thought stability meant your life was finally yours. But stability is when the company knows exactly when it can reach you, and you answer quickly enough that it never has to wonder. The next level begins when answering is no longer enough, when the hard problems start finding you by name. Level 3. The strong engineer. Competence becomes a trap. You do not notice the exact moment people start treating you differently. It happens slowly. A thread appears, and someone tags you before you even know the issue exists. A meeting invite lands with no explanation because your presence is considered the explanation. A document has a blank section with your name beside it, as if everyone has silently agreed that you will know what to write there. You are not new anymore. You are the person who remembers why the old system works the way it does. You know which database table has the misleading name. You know which API fails quietly when traffic spikes. You know which dashboard lies for the first 3 minutes after deployment. You know where the documentation is wrong, because you were there the week everyone discovered it and nobody had time to update the page. This is what competence feels like at first. It feels like control. You can walk into confusion and make it smaller. You can read an error message and hear the shape of the failure behind it. You can tell when a deadline is fake, when a risk is being hidden, when a design is too clean to survive contact with production. And for a while, you enjoy it. There is pride in becoming the person others look for. There is a quiet high in watching a room relax because you joined the call. There is power in knowing that your judgment now carries weight, even when your title has not fully caught up. But then the pattern changes. The company does not only bring you problems because you are good, it brings you problems because you are safe to overload. When a service fails in a way nobody understands, your name appears. When a product manager needs a technical answer before leadership review, your name appears. When a junior engineer is stuck, your name appears. When an old decision becomes a new liability, your name appears. Skill becomes a door that only opens inward. Your days start splitting into two versions. The visible version looks clean. Meetings, commits, reviews, design notes, polite updates. The invisible version happens in the margins. 10 minutes between calls to trace a failure. Lunch eaten while reading a migration plan. A weekend hour spent checking whether someone else's fix created a new problem. A late-night message you answer because ignoring it would create more work tomorrow. Your calendar says you are busy. Your body says something else. Your eyes stay dry even after you close the laptop. Your lower back aches in the exact same spot every night. You stretch your fingers between meetings without noticing. You keep a glass of water near the desk and forget to drink it. You hear notification sounds even when nothing has arrived. That is the hidden truth. Competence does not make your life lighter. It increases the surface area of your responsibility. The better you become, the more places the system can attach itself to you. And because you can handle more, people begin to confuse that with proof that more is acceptable. Then comes the night that makes it clear. It is 2:38 a.m. The room is dark except for the laptop. Your face is washed in pale light. The logs are moving too fast, lines stacking on top of lines, errors repeating with slight variations, like the system is trying to say the same thing in different languages. Your shoulders are stiff. Your eyes burn. There is a dull pressure behind your ribs. Not quite panic, but close enough that your body does not know the difference. You find the issue after 40 minutes. A bad assumption buried in a path nobody had checked because nobody expected that many users to hit it at once. You patch it, you test it, you push the fix. The numbers stabilize slowly. No one claps. A few messages come in. Nice catch. Thanks, looks better now. Then the thread goes quiet. You sit there for another minute after everything is resolved, hands resting on the keyboard, staring at a screen that no longer needs you. And that is when the emotional bill arrives. Not as anger, not as regret, just a quiet, heavy understanding. Nobody will remember this night if you fix it. They will only remember it if you fail. That is the trap. Competence does not protect you from pressure. It qualifies you for more of it. It turns your reliability into infrastructure. It makes you proud enough to keep saying yes, and tired enough to stop asking what yes is costing. By morning, the system is healthy again. People open the product and never know anything almost broke while they were asleep. You close the laptop as the first light touches the window. And somewhere inside you, a new question begins. If being good means becoming the place where everything lands, then the next level is not about writing better code. It is about learning how to make other people move before the weight reaches you. Level 4. The Tech Lead. Influence without a title. The first thing that changes is that your calendar stops looking like engineering work. There are still code reviews, still design questions, still broken things that find their way to you when nobody else wants to touch them. But now, between those pieces, something else begins filling the day. Product sync, design review, data alignment, planning prep, risk review, leadership check-in. Meetings with names so neutral they hide how much damage can happen inside them. You still write code, just less of it. More often, you write the paragraph that decides which code other people will write. You open a blank document at 8:13 in the morning, and by noon it has become a proposal. By the end of the week, it has become a plan. By the next month, 6 people are building their lives around sentences you typed before coffee. That is the first strange part of this level. Your hands touch less of the machine, but your fingerprints spread farther. You begin sitting between worlds that do not speak the same language. Product wants speed. Design wants clarity. Data wants proof. Leadership wants confidence. Engineers want time. Everyone is reasonable when they speak alone. Together, they become pressure. And now you are where that pressure collects. You learn that influence rarely announces itself. It does not always come from the person with the highest title or the loudest voice. Sometimes it comes from the person who asks one quiet question near the end of the meeting. Sometimes it comes from the person who says nothing until everyone else has committed too much to walk back. Sometimes the decision was already shaped before the meeting began, inside 2 private messages and 1 hallway conversation you were not part of. You thought the next level would mean working on bigger things. Instead, it means being accountable for things you cannot fully control. A product deadline slips because another team changed direction. A design requirement arrives late because nobody understood the edge case until it was real. A data dependency breaks because the owner moved to a different org. None of these things are entirely yours. All of them become yours once your name is attached to the plan. That is the hidden rule. Ownership does not mean control. Ownership means you are the person people look at when control was never possible. At first, you try to solve this by being more prepared. You write better documents, you add timelines, risks, fallback paths, diagrams, assumptions. You make the plan so clear that nobody can misunderstand it. But they still do, because people do not only read plans, they read incentives, they read fear, they read what their manager cares about. They read which project will be remembered when promotion season comes. Slowly, you become fluent in the second conversation, the one beneath the words. When someone says, "Can we simplify this?" you hear, "Can we make this cheaper?" When someone says, "Is this really necessary?" you hear, "I do not want to defend this upstream." When someone says, "Let's stay flexible," you hear, "Nobody wants to admit we have already run out of time." And the more clearly you hear it, the less innocent work becomes. The threshold comes in a meeting that looks ordinary from the outside. A rectangular table, half the people remote, someone sharing a roadmap deck. Your name on the slide beside a delivery date that is too clean, too confident, too far from the mess you know is waiting underneath it. You know the timeline is dangerous. You know the unknowns are not small. You know the team will have to cut corners somewhere, and later everyone will act surprised by the corners missing. Someone asks if engineering can commit. No one threatens you. No one raises their voice. No one says your career depends on this. They just wait. And you say yes. Not because you fully believe it, not exactly. You say yes because you understand the room. Because pushing back now would create a different kind of cost. Because you have learned that being right at the wrong moment can make you politically useless. That is what frightens you later, not that you were forced. That you were not. You walk out with the plan accepted, the date locked, and the first real taste of influence sitting bitter in your mouth. Because now, the next level is unavoidable. If decisions are going to follow your name, then people will soon follow it too. Level 5. The engineering manager. People become the system. You stop opening the code base first. That is how you know the change is real. Your morning used to begin with files, logs, review queues, and some direct contact with the thing being built. There was always something solid there, a failing test, a pull request, a line of code, a dashboard. A problem that at least had the honesty to show you where it hurt. Now your morning begins with names, a calendar full of them. One-on-ones, hiring screens, calibration prep, performance notes, compensation questions, promotion packets, team health reviews. Conflict you did not create but now have to hold carefully enough that it does not spread. You are still in technology. But the work has become human. And humans do not fail cleanly. A service breaks and gives you an error. A person breaks and says, "I'm fine." That sentence becomes one of the hardest parts of your job. You hear it from the engineer whose camera has stayed off for 3 weeks. From the senior developer who starts replying at midnight because he cannot focus during the day. From the new hire who smiles too quickly every time you ask how onboarding is going. From the person who used to argue in design reviews and now agrees with everything because disagreement takes energy they no longer have. You start noticing things other people miss. The pause before someone answers. The way a person says, "all good," while looking at another monitor. The sudden drop in pull requests. The meeting invite declined with no explanation. The employee who asks about internal transfer policy and pretends it is just curiosity. Your job is no longer to be the smartest person in the room. Your job is to understand what the room is hiding. The company gives you tools for this. Dashboards, engagement scores, performance frameworks, leveling rubrics, headcount plans, attrition risk, compensation bands. A whole vocabulary that makes human uncertainty look organized. And slowly, without fully noticing it at first, you begin using the language too. You say someone is trending below expectations. You say a team is under-resourced. You say a role needs backfill. You say there is a retention concern. You say the org needs stronger execution discipline. All of it is true, and none of it feels like the whole truth. Because the hidden rule of management is this: every business decision eventually becomes a private conversation with a person who has to absorb it through their body. A budget change becomes someone not getting promoted. A strategic shift becomes someone's project disappearing. A hiring freeze becomes 3 people carrying the work of 5. A performance rating becomes a weekend where someone sits at their kitchen table, rereading the same paragraph over and over, trying to understand what it means for their future. You learn to speak gently without softening the facts. You learn to pause after difficult sentences. You learn not to rush into the silence too quickly, because sometimes silence is the only space the other person has left. And then comes the conversation you remember. It is late afternoon. The room is too bright in that corporate way, where the light does not feel warm or cold, just exposed. There is a glass of water on the table that neither of you touches. You have the document open in front of you, though you already know every line. You have rehearsed the words. You have made them fair, clear, defensible, reviewed by HR, approved by your director. The engineer across from you sits with his hands folded, trying to look ready. He is not ready. Nobody is ready to hear their life reduced to a structured plan with dates, expectations, checkpoints, and consequences. You begin. You keep your voice steady. You explain the pattern, the missed expectations, the support already offered, the next steps, the timeline. He nods once, then again. But his eyes move away from yours and stay fixed on the edge of the table. Something in his face closes slowly, not dramatically, not like in a movie, just enough for you to understand that he has stopped listening to the process and started thinking about rent, family, immigration paperwork, the mortgage application, the story he will have to tell someone tonight. For the first time, you fully feel what this level costs. Management is not controlling people. It is learning to sign decisions that other people carry home. When the meeting ends, he closes his laptop carefully, too carefully. He slides it into his bag, stands, and nods without looking directly at you. Then the door shuts. The room becomes quieter than it was before he entered. You stay seated for a few seconds, staring at the empty chair. And in that small, airless silence, you realize something you were not ready to admit. The system did not become more human because you joined management. It simply learned to use your voice. And once your voice can carry decisions, the next level asks whether you can carry entire teams. Level 6. The director. Scale turns people into numbers. At this level, the work no longer fits inside one room. You do not manage a team anymore, you manage teams that manage teams. The names blur into groups. The groups blur into charts. And the charts become the version of reality everyone can argue about without having to make eye contact. Your mornings begin with dashboards, delivery health, attrition risk, hiring progress, open roles, burn rate, roadmap confidence, operational load, customer escalations, red blocks, yellow blocks, green blocks. The colors are simple enough to understand before coffee, which is exactly why they are dangerous. They make the organization look cleaner than it is. Behind every red box, there is a person who stayed late too many times. Behind every yellow box, there is a team pretending the deadline is still possible. Behind every green box, there is usually someone quietly paying the difference. But you cannot run the organization by feeling every one of those things directly. If you did, you would stop moving. So you learn to look at the surface first. You learn to ask sharper questions. Where is the bottleneck? Which dependency is real? What can be delayed? What needs escalation? Who is underutilized? Who is overcommitted? Where do we have capacity? The first time you say that word, you hear it. Capacity. Not people, not lives. Not the engineer who answers messages during his kid's bedtime. Not the manager who has not taken a real vacation in 14 months. Capacity. A clean word. A useful word. A word that lets pain enter the spreadsheet without making the spreadsheet unusable. That is the hidden rule of scale. Scale does not make you cruel immediately. It makes you fluent in distance. You are not trying to forget the people. That would be easier to judge. The truth is more complicated. You are trying to make decisions fast enough that the system does not collapse under its own weight. There are too many projects, too many dependencies, too many executives asking for certainty from plans built on assumptions. Someone has to simplify. Someone has to decide what matters less. And slowly, that someone becomes you. A product line needs more engineering support. A security initiative cannot be delayed. A platform migration is behind. A new executive wants a visible win by next quarter. Every request arrives wrapped in urgency. Every team can explain why their work is important. Most of them are right. That is what makes the job harder. The weak ideas are easy to cut. The painful cuts are the ones that make sense. You sit in planning meetings where entire futures are moved by dragging cells across a screen. 5 more people here, 3 fewer there. Delay this work. Merge those teams. Pause that hiring. Reduce contractor spend. Freeze backfills until next quarter. Nobody raises their voice. The room is controlled, polite, rational. The language is clean. Trade-off, efficiency, focus, alignment, prioritization. Then you make the change. One line in the budget moves down. There is no sound when it happens, no dramatic moment, no one stands up, no one cries. The spreadsheet accepts the new number instantly, as if the world has adjusted without friction. For the rest of the meeting, the conversation continues. A few weeks later, a team name disappears from the org chart. Not all at once. That would make it too obvious. First, their project is folded into another roadmap. Then their manager is reassigned. Then 2 engineers transfer. Then one leaves. Then the weekly meeting is canceled because there is no longer a reason for it to exist. You see it happen in pieces, which makes it easier for everyone to pretend it was natural. But you remember the line. You remember moving it. That is the emotional bill at this level. You no longer feel the consequence at the moment of decision. The consequence arrives later, disguised as reorganization, attrition, silence. And people saying they are excited for the next chapter, when everybody in the room knows they are trying to survive the last one. And still, the company rewards you for it. Because the roadmap is cleaner now. The burn rate looks better. The executive team has a sharper story. The board will understand the slide. The organization is more focused. You did your job. That is what makes it stay with you. Not because the decision was wrong, but because it was correct in a way that required someone else to absorb the cost. And once you learn to make decisions at that distance, the next level asks you to do something even harder. Not just run the machine. Explain the machine to people who can move the market. Level 7. Executive. Power starts editing your identity. The first time your words are prepared for other people to interpret, you feel the room change around you. You are not only discussing engineering anymore, you are discussing confidence, timing, optics. Message discipline. What can be said now? What must wait? What sounds too defensive? What sounds too uncertain? What sounds ambitious without becoming a promise? Your calendar no longer belongs to building. It belongs to narrative. Board update. Investor prep. Strategy review. Crisis response. Leadership alignment. Media talking points. Customer escalation. Internal all hands. Executive sync before the executive sync. The day is no longer a sequence of tasks. It is a series of rooms where different versions of the same truth must be made safe enough to survive. You still understand the technology. That is why you are here. But technical truth is no longer the only truth that matters. A system can be fragile and still need to be described as evolving. A delay can be serious and still need to be framed as disciplined prioritization. A failed bet can become a learning cycle. A cut can become focus. A retreat can become strategic sequencing. None of these words are exactly lies. That is what makes them dangerous. You thought power meant saying what you really think, but power is often knowing which sentence would create damage if it left your mouth too early. You begin editing yourself before anyone else has to. In meetings, you feel certain answers rise in your throat and stop there. At home, you catch yourself speaking in the same careful language. You say things are complicated when you mean you are tired. You say it is a busy quarter when you mean you do not know how to be fully present anymore. You say you will be done soon, and even as you say it, some part of you knows you have been saying that for years. Dinner becomes a place your body attends before your mind arrives. Your child asks you something small, something about school, something about a drawing, something that only matters because they are asking you to look. You hear the question, You even turn your face toward them. But your mind is still inside tomorrow morning's meeting, replaying the slide where the metric bends in the wrong direction, imagining the question the board member will ask, preparing 3 answers and rejecting 2 of them before you have swallowed your food. There is a pause at the table. Not a dramatic pause, just the kind families learn to move around. Your partner answers for you. You smile a second too late. And the worst part is that nobody calls it out. Not because it does not matter, but because this has become part of the household weather. The laptop on Sunday night, the half-listening, the calendar negotiations, the birthday you attend but do not quite enter. The vacation where you wake early to take one call and spend the rest of the day pretending the call did not change your mood. The emotional bill is not that you lose everything. It is that you remain technically present for most of it. You become excellent at appearing calm while something inside you stays in motion. You become trusted because you are measured. You become valuable because you do not leak panic. You become powerful because people believe your face before they understand the facts. Then comes the meeting. A large one. Too many senior people. Too many careful sentences. The kind of room where everyone knows the stakes but nobody names them directly. A decision is made. Or maybe it was made before anyone arrived, and the meeting only gives it shape. You say what needs to be said. You say it well. The room accepts it. Afterward, you step into the elevator alone. The doors close. The metal wall reflects you back in a flattened, colorless version of yourself. The light above you is too white. The floor numbers move quietly. For a few floors, there is nowhere to look except at the person you have become. Your face looks composed. That is the problem. You wonder when composure stopped being something you used and became something you could not take off. And then the questions arrive. Not loudly, not dramatically, but with enough weight that you cannot push them away. If you leave, who are you? If you stay, what is left of you? The elevator opens before you answer. Of course it does. There is another room waiting. And beyond that room is the final level, where your name no longer belongs only to you. Level 8. Legacy. You become the template. At the top, people stop asking whether you belong. That question disappeared somewhere below you years ago, buried under promotions, launches, failures, restructures, recoveries, decisions that worked, decisions that almost did, and decisions that still follow you in small private ways. Now your name sits where other people can find it. On leadership pages, on announcements, in meeting notes you did not write, in articles summarizing the company's direction, in forwarded emails from people who say, "This came from the top," even when what came from you was one careful sentence inside a much longer conversation. You become a signal. When you attend a meeting, people prepare differently. When you ask a question, someone writes it down. When you pause before answering, the room studies the pause. When you say a priority matters, calendars rearrange across teams you will never meet. This is the strange physics of the final level. Your smallest movements become large somewhere else. You do not touch most of the work anymore. You influence the conditions under which the work happens. You set direction, protect budgets, choose bets, defend timelines. Kill distractions, calm investors, pressure leaders, absorb blame, distribute credit, decide which version of the future gets enough oxygen to survive. From far away, this looks like control. From inside, it feels more like weather management. You cannot stop every storm. You cannot explain every trade-off. You cannot personally save every good person from a bad quarter, every promising project from a market shift, every team from the consequences of a strategy that made sense 6 months ago and now looks naive under fluorescent lights. But you are still accountable. That is the final hidden truth. The higher you rise, the less you can touch directly, and the more you are blamed for what your hands never reached. People quote you. People misunderstand you. People use your name to push decisions you would have phrased differently. Someone says, "Leadership wants this." And somewhere an engineer stays late because of a sentence that may have started near you but became harder as it traveled downward. You tell yourself this is the cost of scale, and you are not wrong. But being right does not make the cost disappear. There are nights when you sit in a quiet office after everyone else has left and look at the city through glass that does not open. The lights below look calm from this height, clean, ordered, almost peaceful. You know better. Down there are people rushing to trains, missing dinners, checking phones, refreshing dashboards, hoping the next review goes well, hoping the next manager understands, hoping the next reorg misses them. You remember being one of them. Not sentimentally, not with nostalgia exactly, more like remembering a room you once lived in but can no longer enter without changing the air inside it. You remember the first version of yourself, who only wanted a badge, a desk, a chance to prove something. You remember believing that each level would make life more yours, more stable, more free, more clear. And now, at the level everyone below you imagines as the destination, clarity has become the rarest thing in the building. Because you have enough power to shape the system, but not enough distance to escape what shaping it has done to you. Legacy is not what people say about you at the end. Legacy is the pattern you leave behind while you are still moving. The hiring bar you defend, the pressure you normalize, the meetings you allow, the language you reward. The kind of person who rises under you. The kind of person who quietly leaves. The version of ambition your organization learns to imitate because it appears to be the safest way up. That is when the final reversal lands. You are not only replaceable, you are reproducible. Somewhere, right now, someone is sitting in a small room with tired eyes and a hot laptop, reading an onboarding email like it is the beginning of their own story. Their hand is unsteady on the trackpad. There is cold coffee nearby. Their body is exhausted, but their mind is bright with the private belief that they are stepping into a future they chose. They do not know the language yet. They do not know the meetings, the alerts, the silent trade-offs, the careful sentences, the way power edits you from the inside before anyone else notices the change. They only know the door has opened. And somewhere above them, inside systems they cannot see, people like you have already shaped the path they will walk. That is the part nobody tells you when you start. At the beginning, the company gives you a badge. At the end, it learns your shape well enough to make another one. Subscribe, because the higher you climb, the harder it becomes to know whether you are building the system, or the system is building another version of you.